Hi there! The full episode-by-episode director schedule for House of the Dragon Season 3 was just publicly released. We've been waiting on this. I've been talking about this. Because some of these directors have a reputation for doing certain types of episodes, such as this is the director they usually assign to the big battles. Getting this list refines our speculative episode-by-episode outline of Season 3. Well, to dive right into it, for an 8-episode season, this is what we have. We already knew the directors are Lonnie Perister, Clare Kilner, Andrei Perec, and newcomer Nina Lopez Corrado. The specific episodes they're doing are Lonnie Perister is doing episode 1. No surprise there, that's the Battle of the Gullet. Then 2, 3, and 4. 3 episodes. Clare Kilner. Episode 5, Nina Lopez Corrado. Then episode 6, Lonnie Perister. 7, Corrado again. And then episode 8, the finale, Andrei Perec. There were some surprises here. Not huge, but enough that I have to refine my speculative season outline. If you did watch the preceding video with the last version of my speculative outline, the short version is what I suspected was episode 7 is actually going to be episode 5, which in turn pushes what I thought were 5 and 6 to 6 and 7. Specifically, I thought episode 7 would be that what they refer to as a non-traditional character-driven episode, which I did say could be put out of sequence, so I said I'm not sure if this is episode 6 or 7. Turns out, based on the directors, it's more probably episode 5, which in turn reshuffles the next two. There are multiple details from this new director list which overlap to indicate that this is the schedule that we're looking at here for what I think is happening episode to episode. Well, very quick summary. There are 3 big pieces of evidence before this that I talked about in the other video. First, that Condell said they're covering 4 major events from the book in this. I spent a whole video explaining why that's Battle of the Gullet, Fall of King's Landing, Battle by the Lakeshore, the biggest land battle of the war, ending with the Battle of Tumbleton. And we already have spy reports that they're filming Tumbleton. That is definitely in the season. It's pretty clearly the end point. Second point of evidence. Condell said that there's this non-traditionally structured, character-driven episode. Some theorized it could be about Daeron, others that it's focused on Aegon in exile. Plus, Condell's recent interview comments make me lean even more strongly towards that this is an Aegon-centric episode. The question is, when are they doing it? Third piece of evidence, that leaked photo of the top page of the character list for episode 304, which clearly includes characters who would only show up after the fall of King's Landing, like Adrian Redford or Torrin Manderley, but we already thought the fall of King's Landing has to be in the first few episodes, not episode 1, because that's a gullet. We already narrowed it down in our heads to just it's either episode 2 or 3. I suspect 3, I talked about this before, that 2 I think would have reactions to the aftermath of the Gullet, as well as introducing Daeron at the Battle of the Honeywine. Why put them out of order? Just more logical this, but we already thought Fall of King's Landing was before episode 4. But originally I thought Battle by the Lakeshore was episode 4, so I had to revise that the first time. This is my third attempt at this. I had version 1.0, version 1.1, now I'm renumbering this version 2.0 because it's a significant enough of a shift that I said, when we get the director list, that's strong enough evidence it's worth renumbering everything. That really affects how I think the season will fall out, what directors are assigned to which episodes. So in my last update I said, oh, I thought Lakeshore was episode 4, now it looks like it's episode 5. Now I think it's episode 6. Let's go director by director here. What are these 4 directors known for? Well, Lonnie Perister As I've mentioned in prior videos, he directed the Red Sowing in Season 2, Episode 7, and he's apparently inherited the mantle of being the big action sequence episode guy. And not just saying, oh, I like watching behind-the-scenes videos and that of how he planned out the Red Sowing, how he said good action scenes always have multiple layers, that there's stuff going on in the background. I keep thinking of Lord of the Rings, The Fall of Isengard. You can rewatch that years later, because there's so many layers in the foreground, the midground, on the horizon line, that there's so many characters and orcs running around fighting the Ents, that you can always find something new that they put in there. So when he did the Red Sowing, that there's other candidates running around in the background who have their own thing mapped out. He said that's what makes a battle interesting, not follow Jon Snow the whole time in close-up like Battle of the Bastards, but no, it has to be a whole battle going on, recognizably in multiple levels on screen at the same time, is what makes it interesting. And I said that even though Alan Taylor won't return for Season 3, simply because he said he's exhausted and didn't like spending half a year away from his family, he said, this is a big commitment, I hope he comes back in the future. I said in the last video, Alan Taylor's cinematographer P.J. Dillon is returning and was paired with Lonnie Perister, that in Season 2, because Lonnie didn't have his own cinematographer he came with, they've said, because they do that thing where they pair directors with cinematographers instead of switching around like other shows, I said in my last video, the fact that P.J. Dillon is paired with Lonnie Perister pretty much confirms that Perister is going to be handling the big battle things. And on top of that, we just got that interview where they said, originally, Alan Taylor was going to direct Episode 9 of Season 2 when it was planned to be 10 episodes. The Battle of the Gullet. Which means Alan Taylor and P.J. Dillon are going to... So, when they were planning Season 2 as a 10-episode season, P.J. Dillon was always intended to be the cinematographer working on the Battle of the Gullet. And though Taylor left, he will still be the cinematographer on the Battle of the Gullet episode, now that it's shifted to be the first episode of the third season, just paired with Perister. So I like the work they've done before. We can clearly say he's doing episode 1 of... They openly said it's the Gullet, no surprises there. What did surprise me is that Perister's 2 episodes are episodes 1 and 6. Which, therefore, probably episode 6 is another big battle episode, when in the last revision of my speculative outline here, I thought that was a recovery episode. I thought that was maybe even the Aegon the Exile episode, or a politics episode. No, it is a battle episode if they're assigning the team of Perister and Dillon to it. And based on the time frame of after the fall of King's Landing, but before Tumbleton, which we know is the final episode, gotta be the Battle by the Lakeshore by mere process of elimination among the 4 big events. We know King's Landing is done by episode 4, Tumbleton is 8, this has to be the Battle by the Lakeshore. Also known as the Fish Feed, because it's a meat grinder where they're fighting amongst the reeds, thousands die, it's the largest land battle, the entire war. One army is annihilated, the other loses over half their men. It's between the Riverlord Stark army and the Lannister army. And like I said, working this out from that cast list, the reason I ruled it out as episode 4, even in the background, is, well, in the top 50 characters, you would see Oscar Tully. Oscar Tully wasn't on that cast list of the top 50. He would be in Lakeshore, therefore, lack of Oscar Tully means Lakeshore's not episode 4 from that. So that's why I moved it to, well, maybe they're setting it up and it's episode 5. Now it looks like they pushed it to episode 6. That's not bad at all, it's just a reshuffling. Well, that's the most obvious thing. Well, the pair of Perister and P.J. The pair of Perister and P.J. Dillon, alliteration there, are the ones they're going to assign to the really intense battle scenes. There are other ones, of course, like Tumbleton is another battle scene, but just the showcase ones like the Gullet or the Lakeshore. The next kind of surprising thing is I thought that with, I openly said last time, well, with 4 directors on an 8-episode season, it's safe to assume that each of them is doing 2. Incorrect. No, it turns out Clare Kilner is doing 3 episodes. And therefore Andrei Perek is doing only 1, that is the important season finale. This is really surprising on top of that, because I made this whole bonus video on just director trivia, because I bothered to look it up, I said, who is the most prolific director in the Westeros franchise across 2 series by episode count? Who is the most prolific? And I explained that it's very rare for anyone to do even 7 episodes. Most stopped at no more than 6. And only 3 directors up to this point ever did 7, and all 3 actually went up to do 9 overall. So it's this weird 3-way tie between Miguel Sapochnik and Alan Taylor, and also David Nutter from Game of Thrones. And I explained how Clare Kilner, by the end of season 2, was up to 5 episodes. So I assume that, if she gets another 2 episodes in season 3, she'll join the 7 Timers Club, as I put it. That she'll be only the 4th director to ever do 7 episodes. I made a big deal about this, I made a whole video about it. No, she will, by the end of season 3, have done 8 episodes. Either way, she'll still be the 4th most prolific director, because I already said, even with only 2 more, she'll surpass all those other ones who never did more than 6. Why this is significant is if, fingers crossed, Kilner comes back for season 4 and directs even only 2 more episodes, 8 plus 2 is 10. She will surpass Sapochnik, Taylor, and Nutter. She will break the record if she hits 10 episodes by season 4 to become the most prolific director in this franchise. No caveats, unquestioned, she'll be the only one who did 4 consecutive seasons. No one has done more than 4 seasons, and even those who did, like Taylor and stuff, they weren't consecutive seasons. She'll be the most prolific director with no ties, head and shoulders above the rest. That'll be exciting. Just in the most prolific in the history of the franchise. I did make a brief hooray post on her Instagram about this, and she was nice enough to respond and say, wow, I'm happy that I can finally talk about this openly. Not that I'm special. She actually responds to fans a lot on her Instagram. But it's nice she waved back and went, yes, hooray, I'm in the 7 Timers Club, and I'm actually doing 8 episodes by the end of season 3. She's very nice. But the big takeaway from this, story-wise, Kilner is doing 3 episodes in a row, which catches my eye, that they tend to do that when it's a story arc, a linked story arc. And we already thought, well, if episode 4 is the aftermath of the fall of King's Landing and episode 1 is the Gullet, which she isn't directing, 2, 3, and 4, apparently a trilogy beginning, middle, end of the fall of King's Landing. Where episode 4 is the aftermath. Episode 2, I think it starts at the end of episode 2. Episode 3 I'm still penciling in as the fall of King's Landing. But that they made it a trilogy like this so that Kilner is, I think in the last 5 minutes, in the beginning of the episode will be everyone reacting to the Gullet, middle of the episode will be the honey wine, then going after this double blow, maybe we should seek peace, and instead Rhaenyra going, no, we'll risk it all, they killed my boys, we'll risk it all on a gamble to take the capital. And in the last 5 minutes, you'll see this montage of everyone gearing up and flying out, knowing they're heading to King's Landing, and then the start of episode 3 will be the actual attack on the city. So that we already knew this was probably episode 3, this just really reinforces it to me. It's not as much of a surprise. The big surprise was that Perister is doing that Lakeshore would be episode 6 and not 5. And on top of that, reinforcing this, it just makes sense that I said, well, Perister is most famous for doing these really big action things, so is Dylan. Kilner is well known as the director who did most of the work on the city street sets of King's Landing, places outside of the Red Keep itself. Think about it, she did episode 1.4, Rhaenyra sneaking out, 1.9, when they go looking for Aegon and Fleabottom, the funeral procession in episode 2.2, which she should win an Emmy for, and the Greens parading Melissa's severed head in episode 5 of season 2. So Kilner, if you pay attention, is always doing the street scenes. So you'd expect her to be assigned to the Fall of King's Landing, but I don't see any controversy here. We already thought that would be the early part of the season. And as for not doing battles, it's mostly CGI battle, as opposed to all this stuff involving I don't know how they're going to do. Are they going to have hundreds of extras on the Leavesden backlot compared to Rook's Rest, or is it going to be mostly CGI? I'm not really sure how they're going to handle that. Either way, visually, when it ends up on screen, it'll be a big event. I'm just, in terms of logistics of filming, I don't know what that'll be like. Each thing has its own things, because Rook's Rest was in an empty field, coming out of a tree line of the forest. It's a lot harder to film in these street sets and with castle walls and things. There's a lot more obstacles. Not to say that she's the only one with experience filming parts of King's Landing, because, moving on, Andrew Perec directed one episode, he's a director from Succession, award-winning director. He directed season 2, episode 6, the Food Riot episode. And the lead up to that, when you see them spreading rumors about, the Greens are feasting inside the Red Keep, that they're just in that tavern with Ulf, or Hugh, struggling to get food in the city streets and stuff. If you think about it, episode 6 featured Hugh and Ulf pretty heavily. So it makes sense that if we think the Battle of Tumbleton is the 8th and final episode, and the Battle of episode strongly features Hugh and Ulf, Andrew Perec is assigned to it. This director who handled the Hugh and Ulf storyline prominently before will be doing Tumbleton. That makes sense. Not that this really alters my schedule, because I already thought that, but another point in that direction. Now, the other thing, though, this is the important part. The first really important one was that Perister is doing 6. They said they're doing this conceptual, character-driven episode, breaks from their normal episode structure, and I said in other videos, I think it focuses on Aegon in exile, comparable to Avatar: The Last Airbender's Zuko Alone, which is famous, really one of their best episodes. And I already said, remember, please tell me in the comments that I was predicting this. Given that they keep hyping this as a non-traditional episode, they said once, they really emphasize this is a non-traditional, structurally different episode, and we have one new director this season, I'm willing to bet that they put the new outsider director in charge of this stylistically different episode. Just different camera work. And the new director this season is Nina Lopez Corrado. I just finished marathoning Night Agent because I hadn't seen it, and I thought, it's a really popular spy thriller. She directed episodes in the second season, and there's this whole fist fight chase scene in the Bowery subway, and just you jumped out of your chair when Keon Alexander rounds around a pillar and he punches the camera. Then it's this whole fist fight. He was Marco Inaros on Expanse. So she's from The Night Agent. She's a director from there. She did a very good episode. I wanted to get a feel for what her work was like. She's really good. But Nina Lopez Corrado, who I abbreviate NLC in this just for space, because it's hard to fit in the grid here. Nina is the new director. So I said, before we got this, her episodes are probably going to be the ones. I thought she might be doing one, and then we'd know for sure. If she does one new episode, we know it's the Aegon one, but she's probably going to get 2, because I thought they'd be doing 2 apiece. She is revealed to be doing episodes 5 and 7. Originally, I said, well, the Aegon and the Exile one, if they are doing it, it's episode 6 or 7. So why am I not saying it's 7 now? Because we know that Lakeshore is 6. Well, let me backtrack a minute. Some said, well, maybe it's not Aegon, maybe it's a Daeron episode. If she was doing the Daeron-centric episode, you'd think a Daeron-centric episode would be in the first half of the season, like episode 2. That you'd get a new director to show how different Daeron's experience was. Instead, she's doing something later in that we know, just chronologically, the Battle of the Honeywine has to be episode 2. What sense would it make to push that all the way back to then have this flashback episode about Daeron's life late in the season? Doesn't make sense. So this just reinforces to me that it's probably an Aegon-centric episode. The remaining question, though, is if Nina is doing 5 and 7, assuming it is doing the Aegon-centric one, which is it? Well, cross-referencing, Battle by the Lakeshore needs an Aftermath episode. I already said in my other schedule, this is the Deepening Difficulties for the Blacks episode. It would start with the Butcher's Ball. Very briefly, it's not a long sequence, the Butcher's Ball. But then go, Rhaenyra Triumphant, name of a chapter. But then go, well, just because we defeated those armies, the Greens have other armies, the Hightower's at full strength. We are running low on men and money. Our forces defeated the Lannisters, but we went through the meat grinder. Our armies, we've lost over half of our men. The Greens have fresh armies to replace them. We don't. They have more money than we do. And they realize the war is not won. It's actually stalemated now because they've lost their momentum. You need a whole episode to have discussions like that. Butcher's Ball, and then a ton of small council scenes, tense small council scenes of Rhaenyra arguing with Corlys, arguing with Daemon over what they're going to do. So because we've established that they need an Aftermath episode to Lakeshore, you can't have Lakeshore in episode 6 followed by Aegon in Exile for a full episode, episode 7, then Tumbleton in episode 8. That it has to be in order. So, based on the musical chairs here, it makes more sense that, okay, episode 4 is the aftermath of the fall of King's Landing. Then, Corrado's episode 5, is Aegon in Exile, breaking up the season. Then, episode 6, continuing the cliffhanger at the end of 4, is Lakeshore, followed by the aftermath Butcher's Ball episode, then Tumbleton. That's how the pieces fit together, and I actually feel really confident in this now. This matches the style these directors are each known for, and it makes complete sense. So just to read it off again. Episode 1, Peristair, Battle of the Gullet. Episode 2, Kilner, Aftermath of Gullet, Honey Wine, Gearing Up for King's Landing. Episode 3, Kilner, Fall of King's Landing, Big Event. Episode 4, Kilner, Aftermath, Consolidating Hold on King's Landing. I think Jane Arryn will come with Torrhen Manderly and Adrian Redfort by ship, delivered by Alan of Hull. Episode 5, new director Nina Lopez Corrado. Structurally different episode I call Aegon in Exile, finding that Sunfire is still alive. Episode 6, Peristair, Battle by the Lakeshore, biggest land battle of the war, major set piece. Episode 7, Corrado, Butcher's Ball, Deepening Difficulties for the Blacks. If they're going to put the Red Kraken in, they'd at least mention him in dialogue then. Even if they don't cast it, they discuss it as an event. Then episode 8, the finale, Perec, is the Battle of Tumbleton. So this is the loose outline I think we're looking at.